Good afternoon, Year 3. It's Mr. Dyes again. Thank you so much for last week's work. That was really brilliant. I did enjoy seeing all of your work, all of that hard work that you've done. So well done. This week, we're going to follow a similar set of instructions, a similar format. And we're going to start off with some warm-up activities. And then we're going to move on to some sort of techniques that I'm going to teach you. And then we're going to finish up with a finished piece of work. Now, last week, we were making shapes and patterns. And from those shapes and patterns, you could see perhaps lollipops or trees, or in some cases, porcupines. But in most cases, it looked like a frog spawn or whatever. This week, we're going to make it so that we can really see, each and every one of us, what that piece of work is. And it's going to be what we call a figurative piece of work. It's a piece of work that when you have finished it, everyone will be able to tell exactly what it is, rather than make up their own mind about it. So I'm going to start the recording soon. Okay, what you will need is your pencil, a rubber, and either your sketchbook or the pieces of paper that you've been given by your teacher. The first job I want you to do is to draw a line that cuts the piece of paper in half lengthways. So we've now got top and bottom. And what we're going to do now is we're going to use our pencil and we're going to draw lines that are similar sizes and fairly parallel. They're going to keep the same distance from each other, and we're going to draw them fairly closely. So I'm going to fill up that space at the top, and I'm going to start from the bottom, and I'm going to go through to the top each time. My strokes are going to be the same. You can hear the sound of it. And I'm going to fill in that piece of paper. And there we've got these lines. I'm going to give you a little time now to pause so that you can get that little job finished. The next thing I want you to do is to turn your paper slightly, and we're going to draw lines about the same length crossways. So we're crossing over. Instead of going from top to bottom, we're going to go from side to side. I'm going to leave a little gap between the ones that I've done. And I should fit in 3, or I'm going to leave the last one. What I'm going to do with this one is I'm going to draw a square around it. So I've got 3 that have been done twice, and 1 that's only been done once. Now I'm going to repeat that operation, and I'm going to take it not top to bottom or side to side, but I'm going to go on a diagonal, and I'm going to start at a corner, and those are going to get wider and wider and then shorter and shorter. So I'm going to do number 1, and I'm going to do number 2 like that. From side to side, across, and now we're going diagonally. Number 3 or 4, whatever you have there, I'm going to draw a line around and leave like so. And this is the last thing I'm going to do with this. I'm going to go back again, and I can either do it top to bottom or I can do it from side to side. I might do it side to side. And when I go over from side to side, you can see the little white dots, hopefully, and they're being covered up, and I'm going to do a little box around there and a little box around there, so that you should be able to see now that from this dark side we're moving through, getting lighter and lighter until we get to the lightest part, and that's going to help us later on when we come to do our drawings. Now the next little thing I want you to do is take a pause. And when you come back, I'll show you the next thing. Now, underneath each of the squares, we are going to draw circles. And those circles don't need again to be perfect, but they are going to be, as we go along, they're going to get lighter and lighter. And we're going to do that by the pressure that we put on our pencils. So the first one underneath that square, I'm going to push fairly hard, and that's going to give us a really well-defined, a dark circle. Now, the next circle I'm going to do, I'm going to try and not put as much pressure on that. So you should be able to see now that that's slightly lighter. The next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to put hardly any pressure on at all. And I'm going to make that lighter and lighter. And then the next one I'm going to do is hardly touching the piece of paper. I'm going to try and do that I'm going to do it small in pencil here. Dark, lighter, lighter, and as light as I can get it. So you might be able to see from there, the pencil ones, how light it is. And the reason we're doing that is if I want to rub out, if I try and rub out this really dark circle, I think you can still see the pencil marks there. If I rub out the lighter one, that's fine. I can see all of it's gone. So if you could do that for me, just try and make the last one as light as possible. And if you got time while others are catching up, just practice so that your pencil is only just making a mark on that piece of paper. Okay, a good time to pause again. Okay, I'm going to turn my piece of paper now so that it's portrait rather than landscape. If you got your book, you might need to fold over the page. And in the middle of that, I'm going to draw a very faint, and I hope you'll see it as faint, circle. So the circle's going to go like so. And then I'm going to use my thick pen so you can see it more clearly. I'm going to put in a little shape that looks, at the top of it, looks like it's almost a bird in flight. I'll turn it upside down so you can see a bird in flight. And this is going to be the little dip where the main part of the apple is that was attached to the tree. And I'm just going to draw a line now that's a little bit higher, and that line, parallel lines again, with a little circle at the top, is going to make it into a stalk. Now, lower down on that stalk, I'm going to do another tiny stalk, and from that stalk I'm going to take a leaf shape. I'm going to draw a line down the middle of that leaf. So I've now got to this stage. Now this is where my next, I'm going to use the thick pen again so you can see more clearly. I've got quite a decent circle, I think, but an apple isn't completely circular. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go around and I'm going to make some of those sides slightly flatter. I'm going to put a little bump in the bottom. I'm sort of like cutting the corners as I go around. I'm going to make sure now that my line goes behind the stalk and behind the leaf. So I've now got a shape like this. You can't go wrong because all apples aren't exactly the same. So whatever you do is going to be fine. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to shade in the stalk. So I'm just going to shade that in completely. Give it a rub with your finger or thumb. And then I'm going to shade in the leaf. And I'm going to do those lines quite close together, as we've done before. And then I'm going to give that a rub. So we're now looking like this. You can pause this anytime you want so that you can catch up with each activity. You might like now to use your rubber eraser and go around and get rid of that original circle that we had. I'm just going to make that a bit darker. Okay, and now this is where our practice comes in handy, because I'm going to do this quite darkly, but you don't need to. I'm going to start, well, by the flying seagull part of the dip in it, and I'm going to take lines that are quite close together as I can get them. I'm not taking it too far. They're not going to be too long because I don't need them too long. You can hear how quickly I'm working. I'm putting some pressure on, but I've got a nice soft pencil here. I'm going to take that up through there. I'm going to take that through like so. Then I'm going to move down. So I've got this part of the apple quite dark. Now I'm not using completely straight lines. I'm using lines that are slightly curving to give me a feeling that that apple's surface is slightly rounded. I might try and see if I can speed this up a bit on the video for you so you can see what I'm doing, but don't have to wait such a long time. And now we're through to so. If you look carefully, you can see the sort of where they're not blended in properly. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start in a different place this time, and I'm going to go over again. So I'm going half between one set of marks and half between another. And now the apple's beginning to get darker as we go down. Like so. Now the next thing I'm going to do is use my trusty thumb, or if you prefer, use a piece of tissue paper or paper that you've got. And you're going to rub all of those marks in so that they become what we call blended. And the apple is beginning to look a bit more rounded. Again, I'm sure you'll do a beautiful job, like so. Now we're going to use our rubber again, our eraser, and we're going to, because the light is coming from the top, usually, we're going to just take a bit of that rubbing off, just on the top of that apple. And if you think you've taken a little bit too much off, just sharpen it up by going over with your pencil again. Now this is the last final bit. You might want to put a couple of darker, sometimes apples have little what we call blemishes. They're not quite perfect, the surface of the apple. So I'm going to put in a couple of little marks like so. I'm going to draw a little shade that the apple's sitting in, so it's not floating in space. And I'm going to draw some lines here on the veins. I'll give that a quick rub. And then the last thing you maybe need is to just tidy up your drawing with your rubber around the outside. And if you have, because it's pencil, gone and rubbed out some of this line here. It's always good to put a thick pencil line in as you finish off, so it really stands out. So good luck with that, and I will see you in the Zoom conversation soon. Zoom soon. Bye for now. Bye.